Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio and welcome to week 39 of the Stash Buster block series. Our block this week is called Double Anchor, and this one is a 12-inch square block. It's made with triangles and a rail fence block in the center. Now this one took me a while to draft out and get the measurements perfect so that it comes out to be a 12.5-inch square unfinished block. So the measurements for the pieces are a little bit strange, but if you just follow through with those, you'll get a nice 12.5-inch block. So I hope you'll join me and learn how to make this block. Okay, here are the fabrics that you're going to need to make the double anchor block. For your background fabric, you're going to need two pieces that are 6 7/8 inch square, and then you're going to cut them in half diagonally once, just on one angle. And then you're going to need two rectangles that are 6 5/8 by 2 5/8 of an inch. I know that's a strange measurement, but that's what works. And then for your dark fabric, you're going to need one that is 6 5/8 by 2 5/8, or one of those rectangles. And then for the square here, this is a 5 1/4 inch square cut on the diagonal once. So those are the fabrics that you need, and we'll get started. And we're going to make the rail fence piece first, and to do that we're going to sew the blue or your dark fabric in the middle. So we're going to make this block here. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, now make a rail fence. We just sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance down each side with the darker fabric in the center. And let's do the other piece. I'm sewing on a new table and my machine sounds a lot different, and I think that's just because of the table. Okay, so we have our rail fence block, and so we're going to press that, and we'll press towards the dark fabric. Okay, now on my sample block, I have that pressed towards the light, so we're going to go ahead and do that and get my machine to stop beeping here, and let me move things out of the way. Now I have been working on my studio, rearranging things to give myself a little more workspace and to make the workflow better. So I'm working on a smaller table, which is working out okay. It's just getting used to it. So got the rail fence done. The next thing we want to do is surround that rail fence with our dark triangles. So we're going to find the center of all four sides, and I'm just going to finger press, and you can pin that if you want. I'm going to do it two sides at a time, and I'm going to do the sides where the seams are going to hit parallel. So I'm going to do these sides here, and I'm going to find the center of the triangle. Now this part of the triangle is a bias edge, so we want to be careful with that. And so we're just going to finger press right there and find my crease here, and just pop that right inside. And then I'm going to pin that and grab my pins. Move my iron out of the way so I don't burn myself again. Oops. Let's do this the right way. You do want your right sides together. So let's do that again. Okay. And my air's about ready to kick on, so I'm going to go ahead and seam this. I'm going to have to turn off the sound and voice over. So anyway, we're going to go to the sewing machine with this. Now I have the center of the triangle pinned to the center of the rail fence block, and I'm just stitching that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance like I usually do. And just being careful because that is a biased edge on that triangle. And when I get that one done, I'm just going to go ahead and trim the threads and then stitch the triangle to the opposite side. So this is the side where all the seams come to the edge. So that's just the way I chose to do it. There's no reason why you have to do it on those two sides first, but it does work better if you do two opposite sides and then press them open like I am here, and press them towards the triangle, which for me is my dark fabric, and then find the centers of the other two sides of the rail fence block and finger press those. And I'll do this here in just a second, but this is what the block looks like at that point. So I'm finding the center of the rail fence block and doing my finger press on one side, and then just turning it around and doing a finger press on the opposite side. And that'll be a good mark for me to line up the triangles and get everything lined up the way it needs to be. So those other two triangles, I'm going to fold those with the wrong sides together and do my finger press in the center of that triangle on that long edge, and then line up that pressed area to the pressed area of the rail fence block. Now you could just fold those in half and iron them, and iron them all the way across if you want. You don't have to finger press each side, but I didn't want to have a pressed line going all the way through the block. So I'm going to go ahead and pin both sides at this point. So I'm finding the center of the triangle, and we'll go ahead and line that up with the rail fence block and then pin that in place right there at that center point. And then I'll be ready to take over to the sewing machine and sew those two seams. And so the sewing is pretty straightforward. There's no points that I have to match. I just have to be careful of the biased edge of the triangles. And with those triangles being on top of the fabric of the block there, I don't have to worry too much about that. As long as I don't tug on them, then there shouldn't be any stretching of that edge of the triangle. So I'm just going to flip it around and sew the seam on the other side. And I do have my 1/4 inch presser foot on, and I'm stitching at 2.5 stitch length, and I am using a 50 weight thread. So now I have those two seams pressed, or I now have those two seams sewn, and now I can press those open. So I'm just going to press them flat first and then open the sides up, open the triangles up, and then press those. And I'm being careful with that edge because it is a bias edge, but it's all stitched in now, so it shouldn't be too likely to stretch, but I always like to be careful with the bias edges. Now the next thing I need to do is to trim off those dog ears that are showing out, and I do that because they don't do anything for you other than create extra bulk in your quilt, and they can also kind of throw off your piecing a little bit. So I just cut them off as I go. And I know a lot of people leave them in, and if that's the way you like to do things, that's perfectly fine as long as they aren't causing you any problems. So now we're going to do the same procedure with the white triangles. They're just larger triangles. So we're back with the bias edges again, and I'm going to do 2 sides at a time and do the 2 opposite sides. So I'm going to finger press those triangles and find the center, and then I'm lining that up with that point there that is formed by the corner of the rail fence block. And so I don't need to fold the unit any more than what it's already been done. So I already have a center point on each side, so all I have to do is to find the center point of the triangles. And this is a white woven cotton, so there's really no right or wrong side, so I don't have to worry about getting confused on that. So I'm just going to open that up, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin that. Now, if you don't like messing with finding your centers, what you can do is judge that your triangle is centered by how much fabric is overlapping on the edges. Now, I'm sewing this with the triangle down, and I'm doing that because there is that point there, and I don't want to blunt it off. So I am wanting to see it, so I turn the unit so that rail fence block is up facing me, and I can see where the 2 lines of stitching cross, and then I can stitch 1 to 2 threads to the right side of that point, and that will help make the point look nice and crisp. You can see the whole point there. It's not blunted off. So now I'm going to press those 2 triangles open, and I'm going to do the same thing with the next 2 triangles by folding them in half and finding the center point and matching those up to the corners of the rail fence block. And here I am stitching those, and you can see I've got them facing down again, and I'm watching that point to make sure I don't blunt it off. And I'm taking my time right here. My hopping foot is a little bit hard to see exactly what is going on at the point of the needle, so I have to kind of trust it to make sure that it goes where I need it to. So if my piecing is accurate, then things run smoothly. Or basically, I just have to slow down and just watch it and do the best that I can. So now I'm going to do the opposite side. And if you feel like those, when you mark your corners of your triangles, if you feel that isn't the right position, like when you're getting ready to sew, if you think you don't have enough of the edge of the triangle showing on the ends of your unit, then you might need to readjust and then sew that down. But my pieces seem to turn out okay. But there are times when I've had my triangles weren't cut exactly the way they needed to be, and so I had to either recut them or just reposition them on the unit I was sewing them to. So here I am at the corner again at the point, and so I'm slowing down to make sure that I don't blunt off that point, and then just sewing all the way through to the edge. And now I can take this over to my pressing mat and press those triangles open. And so here we are doing the final pressing, and actually that completes the block, other than doing a few little trimmings to trim off those dog ears. And here I'm just giving it a really good press, wanting to make sure I can see the points of my rail fence, and then I'll get my scissors and trim off those dog ears. And I know somebody asked me once about how to improve their piecing, and this is one thing that you can do, because I think those really interfere a lot more than what people think. And it's just from the added bulk that they add to your quilt. So there is the finished double anchor block. Okay, here are 4 of the double anchor blocks laying out side by side, and you can see it gives you an on-point design with like an alternate block in the center. Now these are all facing the same direction, and of course you can turn those blocks any way you want. And this is on my design wall, so let me go ahead and turn these a couple of times and show you what those will look like in different orientations. Okay, here I've got 2 in opposite corners turned a different direction, so you've got that kind of a look. Here I've got them all turned so that the rail fences are all vertical. And you could also put them on point, so let's try that. Okay, these are on point. It's a little bit harder to see these. Let me see if I can back up more. Okay, these are on point. So they're squared off, and then the rail fences are on point. So, you know, that gives you a completely different look. So you could put alternate block in there, or you could put another double anchor block in there. Okay, now I put another double anchor block in there. This one is in purple, and so you could do that. You could make these in different colors and kind of alternate them like that, and give your quilt a different look. Well, that's it for the double anchor quilt block, and I hope you'll give this one a try. It really goes together pretty fast. It's just working with a square and a square unit and a rail fence block, and you get something that's a little bit different looking. So you could try this one with different colors. You can use multiple colors in here. You don't have to use just 2. And you can make a quilt with a variety of different colors for this block. So that might be really interesting. So I hope you'll give that a try. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And share it with your quilting friends. Now the written instructions are on my blog, and there is a link in the description below. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.